Hello, this is Gavin Phillips with LayerCake, and what I'm showing you today is your just released Virtual Studio sets and lighting. So let's take a few seconds to see exactly what you'll be receiving. These are your PhotoStudio backdrops, and you'll be seeing how they work shortly. Next are your PhotoStudio scenery, and they work exactly the same way as the studio backdrops. Then you have your PhotoStudio lighting, and working with this is completely covered in the second movie tutorial. Also included and covered in the second movie tutorial is how to work with the drag and drop lights, which you also receive in the package. Now we're going to go through your PhotoStudios floors and walls layered file. Starting at the top here, you may find this light brush layer, which is created by the LayerCake StudioMagic panel. And I'm going to show you how that works shortly, but when you're working with the individual layers here, it's best to keep this turned off. Now, as you can see, here is the model, and she's been cut out using the StudioMagic panel. We'll be getting into that later. And also the color-coded layers, which clearly identifies different areas for you to select. And then when you cut the model out, you're going to select this layer and then drag and drop them in. And I'm going to be showing that in a moment. So moving down here with the floor spot, you could turn this on and off, or you could reduce the opacity of it if it's a little bit too strong. Moving down to these groups, they're very simple to use. You just toggle them open here, and you can toggle on any of these accents. So if I want this fire plug on, I can turn it on, but you've got another little folder here where I can turn the shadow on and off. I can reduce the opacity of the shadow. I'm going to turn that off for now and collapse that. And moving down to this next layer, this is color coded. This is an important one, open to add new backdrops. So this is the one you're going to go to, and I'm going to show you how this works shortly. You're going to select this layer when you want to bring in new backdrops. Now you may have noticed that some of these groups and or layers have the padlock here, which means they're locked in place, and that helps you from accidentally moving them around. But you can turn this padlock off very simply. Go up here and that will turn it on and off just by toggling the padlock here. But if I open this group up, you can see what's in here. So if I wanted to remove this other light here, I could turn it on and off, or once again reduce the opacity if it's a little bit too strong. And it's the same here with the graffiti. You can turn it on and off. So as we can see, we're actually in the walls folder here, and you've got all of these different walls that you can use in combination with all of the different floors that are included. So if I didn't want this, or I wanted to swap it out, I could turn that one off and scroll down the layers here, turn on the stucco wall. And I could swap out the floor as well. If we scroll down the palette, you'll see now you come to your floors here. I could experiment with turning on and off, seeing which floor I prefer. Now, for your convenience, we've included layer comps, and they are accessed under Window, Layer Comps. And the way the layer comps work is you can click through these different layer comps, and the sets are already created for you, or alternatively, you can scroll through them here by clicking on the arrow keys. And as I was saying, you can scroll through these layer comps, find one that you prefer, and then just cut out and drag and drop in your model. Now you could make changes to these existing layer comps if you wanted to. I could go down here, look at my walls and floors, change one out, and then I could save that as a new layer comp, or I could update an existing one. If you click on update, that's going to change this layer comp to this new floor and wall here. But if you click on new, you can create a new one, call it my comp, and then click on OK, and that's going to show up at the bottom of the layer comps. Here's a tip for you. If you wanted to identify exactly where this particular floor was in the layers palette, with the auto select turned off, you can right click on here, go down to brown plank floor, click on it, and it's going to immediately jump you to that exact layer in the layers palette. So let's close out the layer comps. So as you've probably noticed, this backdrop is a placeholder for putting in the other studio backdrops that are included, and a quick way to get to that is to right click on here and go to this open to add new backdrops here. It's going to jump us straight to that spot. It's put us straight in the area in the layers palette where we want to be to put in our new backdrop. So what we do is we select this layer here, and then we're going to bring up some of the backdrops here. As you can see, you've got several color-coded layers here with different groups of backdrops that you can choose from. I'm going to open this up, select the one that you want, press Control or Command A, which selects everything, Control or Command C to copy it to the clipboard. You bring up the floors and walls here, now select this layer, and you just simply press Control or Command V to copy it in. And this works exactly the same way with the PhotoStudios scenery that you receive. I've got one here, just select this grand staircase, Control or Command A to select all, Control or Command C to copy it, bring it back up, we're already on that layer, Control or Command V, and it's going to copy it over it. And of course you could copy across as many different backdrops as you wanted to, and then you could save that so when you reopen it you have all those backdrops ready for you. So let's bring out the LayerCake StudioMagic panel and show you how it works. It's found under Window, Extensions, StudioMagic. Now because it is a Photoshop panel, I can dock it with any of the other panels by just dragging it across here. Now I've docked it with the layers. So let's go to the layers, turn her off. Let's bring up the original model here and go to the StudioMagic panel. Now this is an easy cutout, but you have access to extensive movie tutorials that show you how to cut anyone out of anything using the StudioMagic panel. Now everything starts off with a selection. For this I'm going to use the Magic Wand tool and just click in here to make an initial selection and then add to a selection. You can see the little plus cursor is on the Magic Wand tool there. Like I said, there are extensive movie tutorials that cover all of this in a lot more detail. And we've got our marching ants here. You can press Q on the keyboard to bring up the quick mask, and that gives you a good idea of how your selection's looking. We need to remove probably some of the grey from in the hair here, so let's press Q again to get back out of that. Now you've got a few options here. Auto cutout is for a very simple cutout. Detailed is what we're going to use for this one because we've got still some of the background probably in her hair there. You've also got Pro Mask here. I'm going to select it just to show you what it gives you. So I'm going to click on Detail Cutout. Everything's been pre-selected for you by LayerCake in the Refine Edge panel. You can change different overlays. I'm going to go with the red here. And then just with the brush, you just paint over that area that needs to be cleaned up. With the background, release it. Just clean that for me. Click OK. Let's go to the layers. The panel has put on a neutral grey layer. We can turn that off and we can see that she's been completely removed from her background. Now as you can see, there's a layer mask on here. That was put on when we check marked Pro Mask on the panel. It puts a layer mask on. And painting with black and white, you can add in parts of the background. I'm going to back out of that. Or you can switch and remove any parts that might need touching up. So you've got complete creative control there. But we're all set here. I'm going to apply the layer mask by right-clicking, Apply Layer Mask. And now I'm just going to drag and drop her into the set, reposition her. Now let's go back to the StudioMagic panel and put a shadow on her with the Shadow Caster. Click on Create New Shadow. We'll drop the intensity back and make it a little bit softer here. Change the height, so you've got complete creative control using these sliders, and like I said, there are extensive movie tutorials that get into all of this. Now let's put on a paint with light with the light brush, paint with light brush, go to the layers here. So once again, painting with black or white on the layer mask, depending on the opacity you want. I normally have it at around 60 or 70%. You can just bring the light in wherever you want to. I want to bring a bit more onto her. And you can also change the opacity of the light brush layer here if you want it a little bit stronger or a little bit back off of it a bit. You've got total creative control there. Now you also receive a custom Photoshop action that creates these backdrops for you. I have a photo here that I want to make into a backdrop. You have to make certain that it's exactly 11 by 14 at 300 dpi. So I'm going to right click on the top of the document here, go to image size, and I'll see that it's exactly those measurements, 11 by 14 at 300 dpi. So now I'm going to select the action here, press the play button. So if we go to the Layers palette here, we'll do exactly what we did earlier. We're going to Control or Command A to select everything, Control or Command C to copy it. Then we go back to our document here, select this layer, Control or Command V to copy it in. We turn off the other one and we can see the fireworks has been pasted in there. I'm going to delete this one and turn the other one back on, minimize this. Now you could crop this as well, so I could get the crop tool and hold down Alt or Option and crop this to the size of the background here if I wanted to, and then crop it at the top as well. So you've got a number of ways to go. Let's take a look at this street scene. So we've got our combination of floors and walls. Use the cracked sidewalk, and if we scroll up to the walls, use the grey industrial wall. And then I turned on the graffiti, which is just up here. It's got its own folder. You can turn that on and off, move it around, put it wherever you want to. And then if we scroll up here to the top, we've got our accents. Scroll down here a little bit, got my fire plug there. You can turn that on and off, of course. If we scroll down here, got the telephone pole there, and of course the pigeons here, which you can turn on and off and move around. Let's take a look at some examples of other sets you can create. You have several ways to work with the sets. You can use the sets we've already created for you in the layer comps, or you can start with a layer comp and change out different walls and floors and then save that as a new layer comp. And that's the way I like to work with the different sets. Scroll through the different layer comps, find something that's close to what you want or exactly what you want. Then all you have to do is cut somebody out with the panel, put them into your new set. There are so many different elements that you can add to these sets. And just to remind you, there is a second movie tutorial that deals specifically with working with the lighting sets. You also receive tutorials that cover every aspect of working with the LayerCake StudioMagic panel. And that wraps it up for this tutorial. Thank you for watching.